excited about this. Some mixedracestudies.org scholarly perspectives on the mixed race experience. Um, just posts about people relaying their mixed race experience. One says, I am the Rashida Jones version of biracial. I have white skin and dark brown wavy hair. People always assume I'm white. It's not always black and white. Biracial narratives in TV. It's refreshing to see more and more shows and movies depicting biracial narratives. Twitter and Rashida Jones helped me embrace my blackness as a biracial person. No, really, I've always identified as biracial, though it took me until recently to admit that I identify more with my black side. In many different social situations growing up, I had to announce my blackness. Mixed race celebrities on race in their own words. Healthland, 2011 to 15, February 15th. Meredith Melnick, reporter and producer. Who are you? If biracial and multiracial celebrities have anything in common, it is that they are often asked to explain themselves. That may sound familiar to any person of mixed ancestry for whom questions like, what are you? Okay, so you can go kind of further into this and actually look at this. This is probably going to be a video then. This is going to be a case because I want to pour through this and it might be a couple minutes. But what are you? And the slightly more delicate where are your parents from are the norm. I've definitely gotten that. I haven't gotten the what are you too much, but I have definitely gotten that. Most of the time people just either look at me, people just be like, oh, you a white boy or whatever, or they just be like, you black, or they just be like, you half black or whatever. But it's been more recent that I've been gotten Middle Eastern looking or Latino looking or whatever, and I think that's more so in the hair because I've been trying to make my hair kind of go into different textures and kind of curl up into different textures. But historically, racism is equated with segregation, separating people. In turn, I think racial progress is racial mixing, but the problem is that it's still based on appearance because, people still in America still kind of base race off of appearance more so than, actual direct ancestry. People who embody racial diversity can't be expected to explain the concept to everybody else, but their thoughts on the matter are often illuminating. That's why I'm saying it's if you actually take your time to actually talk to these people and actually try to understand these people instead of just making assumptions and running off that because you think you know everything, then you actually might learn something. So there's that one. There's the Rashida Jones one. It says, I don't look like my mother. My mother is short, blonde, and very, very Irish. I am much taller and have even a bigger frame, even from a young age. My hair is soft and curly and mousy brown. My hands are big, my feet are big, and my skin is not very Irish. Though I was raised single-handedly by my white mother, I never consider myself white. This is being biracial. My father is a black man, black and Sicilian if we're being specific. He is quite a bit older than my mom and was an Afro sporting bell-bottom jean wearing Black Panther in the 70s. I knew him when I was young, but not for much of my life. Between 8 and 24, we didn't speak to one another at all, not once. But even though he didn't raise me, his lineage, his blood, our story was always there. I have always identified as biracial, though it took me until recently to admit that I identify more with my black side. In different social situations growing up, I had to announce my blackness. I have been in rooms with people who did not know I was black, and I have heard how white people will talk to one another about things they do not know in the presence of someone with an ambiguous background. I have always been uncomfortable in certain situations. Yeah, now I can relate. Around people who grew up conservatively or without knowing any people of color. At a very young age, I learned to ask, is it racist, when someone asked me if I wanted to hear a joke. I do not look black, but I have no problems prefacing a potentially upsetting situation with the fact of my blackness. That's why I'm saying, some people out there, can actually more so pass for white, but they do acknowledge their African ancestry. And when people, look at them and be like, oh, that's weird that you're, saying you're black or whatever when you're white, you're just like, but one of my parents, I literally have that in my heritage. I mean, I'm not gonna go out of my way to say I am black or whatever, but I'm gonna announce that I am. Like, I'm gonna embrace the fact that I'm mixed, if I am factually mixed. It's not always black and white biracial narratives on TV. It is refreshing to see more and more shows and movies depicting biracial narratives. We usually talk about race as if it's merely black people and white people. Often the critique is, what about if you're neither? A question, often, much less often asked, well, what if you're both? Until recently, there was little to be said about being biracial or mixed race in TV and movies, but there's so much more complexity there as well. There's a subtle moment in Dear White People when biracial main character Sam White changes her music to hip hop as she strolls back past a group of black girls on campus. There's an equally subtle moment when Gerard Carmichael's biracial girlfriend Amber asked him if the classic Biggie song he is listening to is a new song on the Carmichael show. These moments might be missed entirely and merely chucked at, but there are slight nods to what it means to be constantly bargaining one's identity. Both shows are largely about blackness and the experience of black people, but they also seem to suggest the remnants of the one drop rule, where any bit of blackness largely means acceptance into a black community or exclusion from the white community. But the problem is, that's what they're saying. That's when they lump you into one or the other without asking you or caring about how you feel about yourself, you know what I'm saying, based on your own experiences and whatnot. So of course, there's layers to this. At one point, Sam's friend Joelle makes a comment likening Sam to a Tracy Ellis Ross. And these are beautiful biracial women, Tracy Ellis Ross and Rashida Jones. I'm the Rashida Jones version of biracial. I have white skin and dark brown, wavy hair. People always assume I'm white. Mariah Carey, who has a white mother and a black Venezuelan father, was the only white-looking biracial person I knew of growing up. She was the biracial role model I needed, and I often thought of her when I struggled with the constant denial and questioning I faced whenever I told someone I was part black. That's why it's like white passing biracial people are biracial, and they, I would accept them as biracial. And I would embrace them, as like, a mulatto like us. But obviously, it gotta be like, because if you're white passing and your parent who's black is actually like you mixed and got admixture or something like that, then it's like then it's almost like you might be looked at as like more of a quadroon, or almost like Drake's kid or something. But that's the mixedracestudies.org. There's recent posts from the Routledge International Handbook of Interracial and Intercultural Relationships and Mental Health. All this stuff like that. You got posts, you got bibliography, contact information. I don't know if they're Loki just stumbled on this. I don't know if they're continuously adding to it with WordPress, but we've seen this when I don't know when it was last updated. All right, well, this is a website if it still gets updated, but there's websites out there. I feel like they're just kind of like touched on, but never kind of like really kind of updated, maybe because they weren't getting the attention or whatever that they were looking for to kind of keep going. But there's websites out there, there's research out there. I think more people are kind of curious and everything. So, and with the biracial population growing, it's only going to be inevitable, but that people are going to be curious and want to learn about experiences from different types of people. So